Content Class 2016, Religious, Moral and Life Skills Education, Djpe-Rmls12, Presenter, Ansie Stein. Good day, I am Mrs. Ansie Stein, the presenter of this class and your tutor for 2016 for the subject Religious, Moral and Life Skills Education. That is RMLS12 for the Diploma in Junior Primary Education. Welcome to this class. I hope you will enjoy it and find it worthwhile in your teaching process. Do not hesitate to contact me should you have any questions or uncertainties regarding this subject. I'm going to discuss the outlines of the study guide to introduce you to the subject. Thereafter, it is your responsibility to acquaint yourself with the content and make it your own. Now, the Ministry of Education, through NIET, National Institute for Educational Development, has developed a pre-primary and junior primary syllabus, together with support materials to assist the enthusiastic and motivated pre-primary or junior primary teacher to do an exceptional job. IOL has worked hard and spent much time developing the subjects and their content with care. The subjects are in line with current views and trend as to equip you for the task of caring for and educating the young learners of our nation. This module of religious, moral and life skills education will give you an insight into what constitutes religion and how it relates to moral values. The module Assessment and Quality Assurance, it is expected from you to do one assignment per semester of 120 marks for modules of 12 credits. 50% semester mark should be obtained to write exams. Now, exams consist of one paper of 2 hours and 30 minutes and it counts 120 marks. 60% of the exam marks plus 40% of the semester mark is equal to the final pass mark, which should be 50%. A sub-minimum of 50% must be obtained in the exams. Setting and marking of exam papers are moderated. It's very important that you should answer questions in your own words and do not write directly from your source when doing assignments or writing exams. This will disqualify you. Now, the module requirements and expectations. IOL contact and practical classes are compulsory. Use the study guide, prescribed study materials, and recommended website information. All assignments should be handed in on time. If you have special circumstances, it should be communicated with IOL and in time. Dishonesty and plagiarism are prohibited, so use your own words when answering questions. Manage study time well. Understand the content before you start learning. That's very important. Admission to exams depend on successful attainment of the continuous assessment mark, semester mark. Now, this study guide has 12 credits, which is equal to 120 hours of notional learning. So you should use at least 120 hours to go through this study guide. Commit yourself. Allow enough time to work through the whole study guide. Use your study guide as main source of information. This study guide consists of 10 units. Study each one thoroughly and do not leave out any content. Each unit you will find consists of a table of content, the introduction with an overview of the unit, the learning activities, the answers to the learning activities at the end of each unit. The study support you will get. You received all the necessary study materials. First of all, read through the material. Then read the assignment. Read the expected learning outcomes. That means what you should know after each unit. The expected learning outcomes is a guide for you to know what is expected of you to know and understand. Then plan your study actions to have enough time to do assignments, to study and for revision. Follow the guidelines given in the units and do not leave out certain content. Other support is face-to-face sessions, IOL resource centers, feedback on assignments, and contacting your tutor, which is me. Verbs thinking processes. Now look for the table of verbs found in tests and exams to know what is expected from you. For example, analyze means to examine information in detail to discover the main ideas, components, patterns, or relationships. Now, this table of verbs is found at the front of your study guide and is very important when answering questions. And there are also icons used in each unit. On the page, just before the start of Unit 1, is an explanation of the icons used in each unit. There are 4 icons. Study them and take note what each icon indicates. The aims of this module are to enable you to develop the following theoretical understanding, values and competencies. Clarify aspects of belonging, ceremonies, festivals and sacred issues from different religions. Explain how religious values influence social values. Reflect on creation and the relationship between happiness and values. Explain rights and responsibilities of children. Selected life skills and examine the teaching learning of the RME syllabus for grades 2 and 3. Each unit consists of a table of contents and an introduction provides an overview of the unit. The attention of the reader is then gained and focused by means of the objectives. Now, the exit learning outcomes. Upon completion of this module, or in fact each module, you should be able to clarify aspects of belonging, to describe ceremonies of our lives, to explain sacred issues, and to analyze religious festivals, to discuss how religious values influence social values, to analyze the relationship between happiness and personal values, to explain children's rights and responsibilities, to examine the content of selected life skills, to examine the teaching learning of the RME syllabus for grade 2 and grade 3. So when we study Unit 1, you can turn to Unit 1, the content, the aspects of belonging. All units have the following: an introduction, learning outcomes, readings, and learning activities. The activities are then provided. The answers to these activities are found in the text of each unit and are aimed at creating interest and critical thinking skills regarding the content. Now, the concept of belonging, we all want to belong. The definitions of belonging are described in this text. Find it and study it. Make it your own. 1.2, ways of showing others that we love or value them. 8 ways on how to show others that we love and value them are discussed. What it means to love someone is discussed. how you should love your neighbor according to the Bible and the Quran. Now, if you look at the headings, what follows is obvious. So the headings are quite clear on the content which follows. In this division, a comparison between the two beliefs are drawn regarding how to love thy neighbor. 1.5 is about how to show our family members and others that we love and value them. And 1.6, different feelings on how to recognize them in others. So, what are feelings? The two basic emotions in life, love and fear. Here the concept of feelings is discussed and how feelings play an important part in our lives. Under the heading of 1.7, the importance of controlling some feelings is discussed. The technique on how to control oneself when anger and anxiety want to overwhelm you is discussed here. 1.8, the functions of religious leader in the community. Why are religious leaders important in our lives? Now 1.9, the role of the Council of Churches in Namibia is set out, the CCN. Now CCN is an ecumenical body which exists to support and enable member churches to respond in faith to the spiritual and socio-economic needs of all God's people, commissioned to be a prophetic voice of the poor and other vulnerable people in society. CCN's main objectives are fostering unity among churches and addressing issues affecting the life of Namibian churches and society as a whole. Now, at the end of each unit, note that at the end of each unit, the answers to the learning activities set out at the beginning of each unit is given. So, at the beginning of the unit, certain learning activities are set out, and at the end of each unit, the answers to those learning activities is given. But before looking at these answers, try them for yourselves and make the content your own. Then only compare your answers to the answers given here. And if the answers fairly are the same, then you know you understood and know the content. Also study the glossary at the end of each unit. Here the meaning of certain concepts is discussed. Now unit 2 is about the ceremonies of our lives. In this unit you will study why ceremonies such as birth of babies, marriage and funerals are important and reflect on the similarities and differences between people's values for elders and ancestors. We will also determine what confirmation involves for Christians, for Bahhais and Islams, as well as discuss different religious views of the Sabbath. Finally, we will look at the different views of marriage and various ways of getting married. Now, this unit consists of the following subdivisions. The importance of ceremonies, that's marriage, births and funerals. So in 2.1.1, marriage is discussed. 2.1.2, the importance of the birth of babies, the ceremonies there about. 2.1.3, the significance of a funeral or memorial service. And in 2.2.1, the elderly and the ancestor worship in 2.2.2 is discussed under the similarities and differences between people's values in relation to elders and ancestors. Now we go to 2.3 in the unit 2. The meaning of confirmation for Christians, Bahhais and Islams is set out. So, in 2.3.1, Christian confirmation. Point 2, Islamic confirmation. Point 3, Bahhai confirmation is set out. 2.4 discusses the different views of Sabbath. 2.5, the different views of marriage and ways of getting married. And in 2.5.1, the marriage views. Point 2, the different ways of getting marriage is discussed. And at the end, a summary. As in all the units, a summary is given about the work. Then, as always at the end of each unit, feedback on learning activities, the references, and a glossary is given. In Unit 3, the sacred issues is discussed thoroughly. So in this unit, the ways how different religions celebrate their faith when worshipping, where they worship, their sacred books, hymns and songs, the religious meaning of water, stories, the commandments, and the different religious perspectives on the creation of the natural world is described and set out. Compare these concepts for the different religions in order to know and understand the variety of different beliefs you can find in your classroom amongst your learners. This unit has the following headings. 3.1, the difference between AD and BC, before Christ and after Christ. The sacred objects and places of some religions, and the meaning of sacred. The sacred objects or places of some religions. If you turn to 3.3, you will find the weekly and annual times of worship of some religions, like for the Christianity and for the Islam. The sacred books of different religions. So the Vedas, the Holy Quran, the Bible, Buddhism, and the value of religious hymns and songs from different religions is set out in 3.5. So the Christian singing, the Hindu songs, and the Buddhism is set out from 3.5.1 till 3.5.3. Under 3.6, the religious meaning of water for Christians and Hinduism is set out. So in 3.7, well-known stories of the Buddha religion is given. In 3.8, the story of Muhammad as a prophet. And in 3.9, the positive characteristics of Jesus is set out. In 3.10, the Christian and Islamic 10 commandments and how Namibian laws incorporate them. So you see that's much up to life, which you can discuss with the learners. 3.10.1, a comparison between Christian and Islamic view. And 3.10.2, how the Namibian laws incorporate the 10 commandments. Then you'll find the different religious perspectives on the creation of the natural world. How do the Aborigines see that? And the African views on creation, and the Chinese creation story, including Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Then in 3.11.4, the Christian creation story. Point 5, the Hindu creation story. Point 6, the humanist creation story. And in point 7, the Jewish creation story. And lastly, point 8, the Muslim creation story. And then, after you've done that, as always, the summary of the work which was set out in Unit 3. So when we turn to Unit 4, the religious festivals are discussed. This promises to be a very informative unit, and I'm sure you will enjoy studying it. We will be looking at the meaning and activities of Christmas, of Passover and Easter, as well as a brief look into 3 different religious observances in Africa. So the learning outcomes in this unit will be, after you've completed studying this unit, you should be able to analyze the meaning and activities of a Christian Christmas and whether other religions have a similar festival. You should analyze the meaning of Passover and Easter and whether other religions have a similar festival. Retell the main events leading up to the condemnation of Jesus, and you should analyze 3 religious observances in an African tradition. So the learning activities for this unit will be to explain why Christians celebrate Christmas, to describe the religious view of the Bushman, and point 3, list 9 traditional elements of Christmas. Then briefly define each of the following concepts: Lent, Shrove Tuesday, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday. You should know what each one means. The 5th point, discuss the events that led to Jesus' crucifixion. 6, comment on Iol Adha, the festival of the sacrifice. 7, discuss the following statement: in traditional African religion, there existed a very strong belief in the supernatural. The unit is discussed under the following headings: religious festivals, the meaning and activities of a Christian Christmas, and whether other religions have a similar festival. So in 4.2.1, the meaning of Christmas is set out. 4.2.2, the activities during Christmas. 4.2.3, similar festivals in other religions. And then in 4.3, the meaning of Easter and Passover is discussed. So 4.3.1 is Easter and point 2 is Passover. And then in point 3, similar religious festivals is set out. 4.4, the main events that led to the condemnation of Jesus. And 4.5, religious observances in an African tradition. So when you finished Unit 4, you can look at Unit 5, how religious values influence social values. In this unit, we will make an in-depth study of treating others in a caring and forgiving way, as well as explain what respect means and how it is linked to democracy. We will also look into the concept of rules and regulations, what the characteristics of leaders are, and how the Christian and Islamic faiths agree on certain values. Read through the unit, answer the learning activities, and compare them to the answers at the end of the unit, and then make the content your own. The following aspects are discussed in this unit. 5.1, why one should care for other people and not bully or exploit them. This is so much discussed in today's life, so it's very important that you know that to teach it to your learners. 5.1.1, why we should care about other people. Point 2, why we should not bully or exploit others. Then in 5.2, why one should forgive and reconcile with others. 5.3, why there should be rules in our society. A child has to know that. And 5.4, what is a healthy society? So in 5.4.1, key characteristics of healthy societies is set out. Point 2, social equity and well-being is discussed. 5.4.3, citizen engagement and responsibility is discussed thoroughly. So in 5.5, comparison Islam Islam and Christian faith regarding values is set out. So in 5.5.1, the Islamic view on values, and in point 2, the Christian view of values is set out. So when you look at the headings, you will exactly know what the content will be about, the content which follows. 5.6, the meaning of respect and how it is linked to democracy. So in 5.6.1, the meaning of respect is set out. And in 5.6.2, how respect is linked to democracy. In 5.7, how humanity is linked to values. And in 5.8, the negative consequences of ignoring values, rules and laws. Children should know from an early age what values, rules and laws are and why they should be obeyed to. 5.9, the values and qualities of good leaders in a society is set out. So if we go to Unit 6, the relationship between happiness and personal values is discussed. So you'll see it's not only about the religious, but also about the moral and life skills values that are set out. In this unit, we will explain the relationship between happiness and personal values. We will look at various situations or times when we felt contentment and analyze why we felt content. We will also relate inner peace to values. We will distinguish between fun and happiness and relate values to relationships and happiness. We will also have a look at how pain and suffering affect people of all religions and describe different religious perspectives on how people can be healed from guilt and sin. Then we will investigate different domains of personal development and the possible consequences if development lacks in some areas. And finally, we will examine how each chronological phase in one's life has particular growth tasks to be achieved. Now, these concepts are discussed in this Unit 6 under the following headings. What are values? Know the definition. Situations or times when one was content and determining why you were content. 6.3, relating inner peace to values. And then in 6.4, the difference between fun and happiness, because there is a clear difference. 6.5, relating values to relationships and happiness. 6.6, how pain and suffering affect people of all religions. 6.7, the different religious perspectives of how people can be healed from sin and guilt. So, the different views are set out in 6.7.1, the Hindu view of sin. Point 2, the Islamic view of sin. And point 3, the Christian view of sin. And lastly, in point 4, the Roman Catholic view of sin. Now, in 6.8, the different domains of personal development and possible consequences if development lacks in some areas is discussed. So, 6.8.1, your spirit. Point 2, your creative genius. Point 3, your relationships. Point 4, your money and career. So, it's also aimed at you as teacher. Point 5, your fitness and health. Point 6, your belongings. Point 7, your community. And then in 6.9, particular growth tasks to be achieved in each chronological phase in one's life. See to it that you know it, that you read it and make it your own content. And in 6.10, a summary of the above mentioned is given. So this subject is not only about religion, but also about life skills, as you have seen in the above mentioned. Then we turn to to Unit 7, where the children's rights, but also responsibilities is discussed. So children must understand that they have certain rights, but with the rights, certain responsibilities come. And the following very important issues are set out and discussed in full. In 7.1, the human rights across the world in relation to justice and fairness is discussed. 7.2, children's rights. 7.3, children's responsibilities at home, at school and in general is set out. 7.4, the link of values to responsibilities. For example, not to endanger others in my life. 7.5, important responsibilities such as saving water, so important in the Namibian life today, food and resources. 7.5.1 is then about saving water. Point 2, the importance of not wasting food. Point 3, the importance of saving natural resources. And then in 7.6, how to say no to improper proposals, activities, or events. So the child learns certain ways of living, and you as a teacher is responsible for that, to teach the children. Unit 8, you will find most helpful because certain life skills are discussed which are specifically aimed on you, the student, and also to teach it to your learners. In 8.1, how to improve your self-image. 8.2, how to use praise and encouragement to build up people. In 8.3, how to compile your CV. 8.3.1, what is the difference between a CV and a resume? Point 2, to compile a CV. Point 3, general tips. Point 4, points to bear in mind. So in 8.4, how to prepare yourself for an interview, and that's specifically aimed on you as a student. 8.4.1, the main objectives for an interview. 8.4.2, what to do before an interview. Point 3, success tips for acing your interview. In other words, so that it goes very well. Point 4, what to do during an interview. And then we come to 8.5, the emotional, financial, practical responsibilities of having a family. So the emotional responsibilities is set out in 8.5.1. In 8.5.2, the financial responsibilities. 8.5.3, the practical responsibilities. 8.5.4, the detailed responsibilities that parents must adhere to in order to foster their child's physical and or emotional well-being. And in 8.6, you'll find the reasons why marriages often fail and end in divorce. That's also important to know about children in your class. 8.7, how to maintain positive interpersonal relationships. 8.7.1, the different kinds of relationships. Point 2, the benefits of maintaining good relationships. And then in 8.8, the impact of pornography on one's personal maturity and relationships. 8.9, the do's and don'ts when getting involved in internet chat rooms. So this is very up to date with today's life and world. 8.10, how to communicate assertively. 8.11, how to develop a positive attitude and the benefits of having a positive attitude. Module 9 is more aimed on specifically teaching RME to grade 2 learners. And you are taught the teaching learnings of aspects like belonging, the phases of life, etc. The syllabus includes the following regarding teaching learning activities and materials for grade 2. So, the teaching learning activities and materials for teaching the subtopics of the theme belonging is discussed. In 9.2, the phases of life is discussed. 9.3, the following is discussed thoroughly, the teaching learning activities and materials for teaching the subtopics of the theme sacred places and objectives. And many practical ideas is given to you. 9.4, festivals. 9.5, social values. And lastly, the 9.6, teaching learning activities and material for teaching the subtopics of the theme of religion and the environment. So the reasons for protecting the environment, staple food, process from harvest to table, the harvest festivals, prayers before meals, beautiful things in nature, relevant biblical text is set out here. So this is a very interesting part of your teaching RME to your learners. 9.7, the teaching learning activities and materials for teaching the subtopics of the theme of personal values is set out in detail here. So in 9.8, the same for the children's rights and responsibilities, and also on the topic of different points of view. Now, the last aspect to be discussed is the very important issue of the syllabus assessment guidelines for grade 2 learners. This is a very practical description on how to assess your learners meaningful. Also, the aspect of continuous assessment and the guidelines to be used when doing this in your classroom. In Unit 10, the same aspects as grade 9, as Unit 9, are discussed, but this time for grade 3 learners. Study this unit thoroughly, make it your own, and be sure how to know how to do assessment regarding RME in your classroom. In this unit, you will get the opportunity to design your own lesson plans according to themes relevant to the grade 2 RME syllabus. You will be referred to websites that will assist you with some ideas of teaching and learning activities that can be helpful, as well as some ideas about materials that can be used to teach these topics. It is, however, of utmost importance that you design your own lesson plans and make it applicable to the learners that you teach and their life world. Do not use the lesson plans as they are. Your lesson plans must be age and grade specific, and your materials and activities must be understood by your learners. Now, in conclusion, this is just an overview of the learning content of your study guide. You now have the responsibility to make it your own. Enjoy the journey through this study guide. Do it systematically and over a period of time without rush. In other words, what we said at the beginning, at least 120 hours should be used to study this study guide. So start studying early and in time. And good luck and make the best of this fantastic opportunity.